All right, everyone. Today we're going to batch develop some color film. So here we have Cinestill 400D on the left, we have Fujifilm 400 in the middle, and on the right we have Lomography Lomochrome Metropolis. So we're going to get these loaded up in the tank, and then we'll go from there. All right, so the film is loaded in this little 3-roll tank, and then I have my developer, my Blix, got some distilled water in here, and then I have my Cinestill TCS1000 temperature control system. So generally, your setup will want to be something like this if you want to do it at home. It's taken me a while to perfect this little technique of developing, but it works out really well. I use the Cinestill, I think it's the Cs41 Simplified powder pack, and it works really well. I can develop about 24 rolls of film with it. And then I use distilled water for my final wash bath, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to there. But for now, we are going to start the developing process. All right, so the deal with color film is that it needs to be processed at a constant temperature of 102 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's super helpful to have this little temperature control system that Cinestill made. It streamlines the process and makes it so much easier. So the process of developing C41 is first we have a pre-wash right here, and then we're going to do our developer, and then we have our Blix, which is bleach and fixer. And then after our bleach and fixer, we are going to do a water bath. So first what we're going to do is, I'm going to set my timer for 1 minute, and that's going to be the first thing we do is to do the pre-wash here. And you're going to notice there's going to be some funky colors that come out because each film stock has its own little characteristics, little film base. So we have that in there. We're going to let this roll for a minute. Alrighty, so now our timer has ran out to 0. Now we're going to go ahead and dump the water. Usually Kodak has a more interesting color to it, but these are pretty neutral. Alrighty, so for my developing time, there's a website called, it's a man by the name of Richard Sumalang, and the developing times of this change as you develop it because the chemicals get weaker. And so I think I've ran about 6 rolls through here, and his chart says about 4 minutes, and we're going to go with that, and we'll get run through that. So with 4 minutes, you know, like after every roll of film you develop with this Cinestill kit, you have to add a little bit more time because the chemicals, they kind of lose their efficacy, and we want to make sure that we get most even developments. So with color film, the main differences from black and white in the previous video is that you agitate the film for the first 30 seconds, and then every 30 seconds after that, you agitate it for 5 seconds. So here we're on our first little run of our 30 seconds. And I also want to say during this time, we have the temperature control system. It's still keeping our chemicals warm at 102 degrees. And so for this developing time, we're going to do 4 minutes. And it's going to be relatively short. But then the Blix ends up being 8 minutes. So in some ways that's shorter, in some ways it's a little bit longer. So we're coming up on our top of the minute here. And we'll go for 5 seconds. And then we'll wait for the next 30 seconds. And we'll touch base when it's time to put the Blix in. All right, so the developer is finished right now. I'm gonna go ahead and set my clock for 8 minutes because that's how the Blix is gonna be. That's the Blix time. Can't talk today. So we're going to pour our bleach, not our bleach, but we're going to pour our developer back into the tank. I try to get as much as I can out of there. All right, so next what we're going to do is going to make sure to get our Blix ready. Sometimes you have to shake these little things off because they catch water in it. All right, so my clock is set for 8 minutes. I'm going to put this aside, and we're going to put our Blix in. And for this purpose, I just want to say each of these bottles is 1,000 milliliters, and that's about the max capacity of liquid that can go in this little Patterson three roll tank here. So we're gonna get the Blix in there, and it's the same process. The same process. We agitate constantly for the first 30 seconds, and then every 30 seconds, you agitate for 5 seconds. So we're in the first little phase of that. And so, again, our time is 8 minutes. And then after that, we're going to do a rinsing technique. And I've experimented with my rinsing, and I've tried out a few different methods, and I'll show you all the one that works best for me. So we're at the end of our first 30 seconds, and we will come back here in a moment with the final rinse. All right, so we have dumped out our Blix and we have put some water in. I use a 3-bath water system where I use the at temperature water from the tub here. And for the first 2 cycles, so each cycle is 1 minute, and you constantly agitate the water during this period of time. And what I usually do is, I'll do the first 2 rinses are going to be in the regular tap water that I have here. And then my last rinse is going to be distilled water. And I found that out the hard way the first few times I tried this process. And there's something that's kind of different about the film base of color film that just attracts dust and water spots. And my big thing was water spots. I had a huge issue with it. And so it took me a while to figure out that distilled water is the way to go. And I was just trying to be economical about it. I developed quite a bit of color film, and I wanted to find a way to still use distilled water, but use it less. And so this method works best for me. And so that's the process that I use. And so we're going to finish this. We're going to do our distilled rinse, and then we'll do our wetting agent, and then we'll put it ready for the dryer. Alrighty, so our second bath is now complete. Go ahead and get that rinsed out. I'm going to go ahead and take off the cap here, because sometimes it's easier to see how much distilled water you actually need to put in here. So open this up. Let's see, here we go. There's distilled water in there. That looks good. Okay. I got that in there. Using the same wetting agent LFN. That's the good stuff. I'm gonna do 2 drops for this big tank. And so I like to combine my LFN and my distilled water in one go. It's always worked out for me, and I've had good results with it. So this is going to be our final minute, and we're just going to constantly agitate back and forth. And the next phase will be drying, and I will show you that step here in a minute. Alrighty, so now we're ready to dry. I'm going to show you how I get this dry for 1 roll and just spare you the other 2. But I'll go ahead and hang it up in here. Make sure it gets nice and secure. And just like in the other video, we're going to need our little squeegee here. And again, I can't stress enough, have a very light touch. Doesn't really take a whole lot. And then you're generally in a good spot there. And then the next thing we're going to do is use these Chemtech wipes. They're great. They help reduce water spots a lot. I saw this technique off of the Cinestill video, and it works out perfectly for me every time. Black and white film, you don't really need to do it. But I always like to. I'd rather take a little extra bit of steps just to have a little peace of mind. And so here, we're going up on our second one. I think 2 will be fine for that. And so after this, I'm going to do this to the other 2 rolls, and then we're going to set the timer on the dryer for 10 minutes, and then we'll take a look at the negatives. Alrighty, so we are finished with drying, and I've cut the film and put them in negative sleeves. And you can see that each film base has a different kind of unique color to it. On the left, we have the Lomography Metropolis. Middle is Fuji 400, and then the right hand is the Cinestill 400. So they each have their own different kind of like unique kind of color profile to them.